headline appeared in national and regional papers in January 2007. It was a headline in national and regional papers, January 2007. Was it A, Obama announces exploration committee wearing powder blue? Was it B, Senator Brownback cuts hair prior to formal declaration? Or was it C, stylists interpret the inside message of Senator Clinton's accoutrements in her presidential candidacy? Right, if you guessed C, you're right. The third headline comes courtesy of the New York Sun writer Christopher Flaherty. He spoke to an interior designer and a stylist who would work with ambassadors and royal families to review the fashion, the jewelry, her posture, the room decor, and all what they represented in Hillary's online presidential announcement. What male candidate ever got that comment? Funny, or is it really an insight into one of the many things that differs men from women as candidates in an elected office? Let's back up a little bit. I'm going to give you a lot of numbers, but they're important numbers to know. Women make up what? 51% of the population. So shouldn't a political system have the same percentage of representation? Shouldn't the government represent the community that it serves? Shouldn't that result in a balanced government with balanced policies? Something perhaps more important than even balanced partisan politics? Women worldwide continue to make dramatic gains in politics, winning wonderful leadership positions all over the world and holding some of the highest governmental positions. The United States, however, we're not doing so good. We continue to struggle to elect more women into high government positions. You're right, Susan. We're moving in the wrong direction on this subject, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the facts. Remember the 51% of the population, and that was 2012. In 2012, 90, or only 16.8% of women serve in the U.S. Congress. 51% of the population, or 16.8% of Congress. 17 women in the Senate, 17 in our Senate, and 73 in the House. The number of women in statewide elected posts is 75, only 23%. While the proportion of women in state legislatures is what? Not much better, 23.7%. Local elected, you say, well, maybe women are serving in their local governments. Not faring much better. Of the 252 mayors in cities with populations over 100,000, 44, or only 18%, are women. The U.S. ranks, what do you think? 70th. 70th in the world in terms of female representation in national legislatures or parliaments out of 187 countries. Out of 187, we're number 70 in female representations. Countries leading the pack, it's always good to know who is out there. Rwanda's number 1.
Rwanda?
Yep. Followed by Andorra, Sweden, South Africa, Cuba, Iceland, Finland, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Mozambique.
Wow.
They're all ahead of us. Those are the top countries. In these dismal statistics, however, you got to try and find a bright spot in every subject, right? Florida is not doing terrible, all right? When you look at states, Florida is above average. We actually rank 12th in our country in states with highest numbers of women in political office. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lori. We rank 12th. States that rank higher: New Hampshire, Vermont, Minnesota, Illinois, Maryland, Connecticut, Maine, California, Georgia, New York, Washington, and Massachusetts. And then Florida. Where are we really bad? I mean really bad, with almost no female representation. The lowest ranking states: Nebraska, Alaska. No one ever said women are stupid, like, who wants to live in Alaska? But Delaware, South Carolina, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, North and South Dakota, and Oklahoma, a lot of the Midwestern states and a lot of the Southeastern states have very, very, very small female representation. So the question leads to, does women in elected office lead to women-friendly policy? And the answer is yes. In the research that I did to present to you today, it was a survey done by the Institute for Women's Policy, and it showed clearly that the proportion of women in elected office of government related directly to the policies of violence against women, promoting women's economic quality, alleviating poverty among women, improving their physical, mental, and reproductive health, and well-being, and enhancing the political power of women. There is a direct correlation. And it's not just women's issues where women's voice should be dominant because of their involvement and impact. We all know the saying, is the economy stupid? Well, guess what? And Tom spoke about that. Tom, on my left? Okay, well, Tom, he's on to something. Nationally, 55% of married women in the labor force earn half or more of their family income. Women are responsible for 85% of all consumer purchases. We are 47% of all investors, and we own 46%, Elaine, she wanted me to talk about this, 46% of all privately held companies. So we're not just about health care and children and the women's issues. We dominate and add up to more than $5 trillion of economic impact in this country annually, ladies. So it's not just the women's issues. We have big, big financial clout. So why aren't women in office? Well, we know about why women don't run for political office. Number one, they don't get elected for anything unless you run for it. If your name isn't on the ballot, right, Lori and Susan, you don't get elected. So it's pretty simple. You can't get the votes. You also can't complain about representation of women in government. You can't get your name on the ballot. It's kind of like voting. Let's not complain about it. A citizen political ambition study was used to survey more than 3,700 lawyers, very achieved people, lawyers, business leaders, executives, educators, and political activists. People that typically make up candidacy for elected office in this country. It found that women who share the exact same professional achievements and accreditations as men expressed significantly lower levels of political ambition to hold office. And why is that? They narrowed down to two key factors. Number one, you're less likely than men to be encouraged to run for office. Men are approached by people to run for office much more often. And secondly, much more likely to say yes. EGO. There seems to be a higher level of ego in men. And when they're approached by someone to run, they're much more likely to say, yeah, of course I can do that. Women, on the other hand, significantly view themselves as, no, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to run. Not true, ladies and gentlemen. We are the same. With the same characteristics, the same profiles, we are just as qualified to run as men. And let me tell you, we have to move ahead quickly. At the current rate of women taking elected office in this country, it's going to take 500 years for us to achieve 51% equality with men in elected office. So we got to move, and we got to move fast. Nancy Pelosi said, when my colleagues elect me as speaker, we will not just break through a glass ceiling, we will break through a marble ceiling of 200 years of history. There is an established pecking order, and I cut in line. Well, I tell you what, with the help and support of each other, great organizations like the League of Women Voters, NOW, Ruth's List, Emily's List, Planned Parenthood, all the rest of you, more women need to cut in line and get in line for the next 10 years.